It's a big win for Arsenal this week. We're going to be hearing from Leeds boss Marcelo Bielsa in just a moment, who's been reacting to that 7-0 defeat to Man City. But first, Mikel Arteta is upbeat after a positive week on the pitch in the absence of their former captain.
Well, the last two performances have been really good in terms of what we want to achieve in matches, the results that we got, the way we have dominated those games. But we need to be consistent on that throughout 10 months to achieve the goals that we want, which is to be the best, and we are not there yet.
Aubameyang, is he available for selection?
No, he's not available for selection.
Has he got a future at the club?
For this game, he's not available for selection. Every time that you are sitting here, you have some challenges. You have some brilliant moments, some moments you have to make decisions. And I'm sitting here to try to make the right decisions every day. And my only intention is that to get the club in the best possible condition, to defend our players, and to get the best performance and results on the pitch as we can. And it's been challenging because those decisions are tough and not pleasant, but you have to do what you feel is right.
¿Usted cree que hay algún entrenador que no pueda ser echado?
Do you think that there's a coach that can't be sacked?
¿Usted cree que yo soy tan vanidoso que pueda pensar que no puedo ser echado?
Do you think I'm so vain that I don't think I can be sacked?
Por supuesto que el cargo de entrenador es especialmente inestable.
Of course, the job of a coach is not stable.
Yo no tengo ninguna particularidad que me haga infalible, que me haga inmune a esta característica.
I don't have anything that makes me immune from that characteristic.
Frente a toda esta circunstancia, lo único que hago es pelear.
Upon all of these circumstances, all I do is fight.
Well, we'll come back to Marcelo Bielsa's press conference very shortly, because I don't think we've seen him this animated before since arriving in the Premier League. But we must start with the big story of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at Arsenal. Mario, you captained Wigan in your time at the club, so you know what it's like to lead a team. What did you make of Arteta stripping him of the captaincy?
I mean, he wants to prove a point. I mean, you have so many young stars in the team, you know, like Smith Rowe, Saka, all those young, talented, very, very influential players that are really rising. You want to have making sure that you make the right choices, because if the coach doesn't stand up and doesn't prove his point, the other young boys are going to remember that moment and thinking like, okay, if you don't do it against him, that means that I'm freely to do what I can do too. And I think that is where you could see that as a coach, the way listening to him, you could see that the choice that he made is not a choice that he wanted to make, but he had to do it. And that is because I don't think the relationship between Aubameyang and him was bad, but now I don't think it's good.
There are reports, Rafa, that Aubameyang is now being forced to train separately from the group. What do you think that says about his future at Arsenal?
Well, first of all, I don't know if these reports are accurate, and there might be other reasons, maybe procedural reasons why he has to train alone at the moment. But you can see from Arteta's demeanour and the way he answered these questions that, unlike the last time when you remember he was left out from the North London derby because he'd missed a team meeting, they were very quick to rehabilitate him. This feels a lot more like it's a permanent decision. And I think he's also, judging from the statement that the club put out, where they made a point of saying this is not the first time, it feels as if it's reached a level where Arteta can no longer tolerate it and think he needs to make this example almost out of him.
Yeah. He's not helping himself, though, is he? Arteta's been a captain himself, and he's always led by example, both on and off the pitch. And I just think that his expectations, how he conducted himself when he was playing Arteta, it just doesn't marry up with what Aubameyang's done and doing. And so he is making an example of him. He's a young manager. We've got to remember this as well, you know, Arteta. And this is a tough challenge for him. So this is where he's put his marker in the road as to what he stands for as a manager.
No one ever wants any negativity at their club. But when we actually look at Aubameyang's influence on this Arsenal side in terms of the statistics, actually this season, when you look at the numbers, They've been better without him since his debut, actually.
Yeah, but we're talking about a guy that is now in a situation like that. But if we take it from after, like away from this problem, he was, of course, one of the key figures, because they're not going to give him a contract deal that is extraordinarily well if he wasn't performing well. So that goes back to, I think, just he's going through a moment where he had to turn the corner, and he didn't turn the corner, and then this came on right on top of it. That's why he cannot protect himself really well, because if you're not scoring and if you're not performing the way the team needs you and wants you to, and then you do a moment like that while you're the captain, now people are going to look at you. Well, whose example are you now? And that's the question that he never answered really well, and that's why the heat is on him, and that's why it's difficult to win, because now the question comes, does Arteta wants to keep him even in his team? It's not anymore like, do you want to play him? No, do you want to keep him in the team because he's not the right example? And I can't handle that, because, one, like Rachel said, Arteta's been a captain himself. I've been a captain myself. And you always have in the back of your mind as a captain that you are the one that leads the team.
Yeah.
And making sure you lead it. If you don't lead it well, there are going to be some, things are going to break down and they're going to look at you. And now I think the trust issue becomes very important.
Yeah, it's a fascinating matchup against Leeds, because as we just saw from Marcelo Bielsa there, Rachel, very animated in his press conference. We don't see that very often from him, because sometimes you lose some of that emotion in the translation, but you could clearly see it there from him this time around. I suppose that's how you're going to react when you've just been beaten 7-0.
Yeah, and in his post-match, Man City, he said he couldn't believe how his team played, everything that they set out to do, they didn't do. He did lay some of the blame on the players in that one, absolutely. He rightly deems himself culpable, and maybe his methods, now that Leeds this season particularly, are not getting the results that his team wants to get or needs to get, and the kind of ratio of how hard his team are working to the output and what the results they're getting has been swayed. Last season they worked, it's been well documented how hard he drills them, how relentless he is, but and got results last season. This season I think that balance has tipped, and that is why our players still on board with his methods, because they put in a lot into it, and it requires that to get the output, and they're not getting that.
Ref, are you worried for Leeds this season?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm worried for Bielsa, because I think there comes a moment when you're so intense, when the results go against you, that the team invariably starts to lose a little bit of belief in you, and maybe you lose a little bit of belief in the team. And I think Leeds are on a critical point. My hope is, or the optimistic take would be, that a lot of big-name players are out at the moment. Yeah. And once they come back, then it's going to be a very different Leeds. This is not a Leeds at full strength, nowhere near it. So they should improve. But it's going to be difficult against an Arsenal team that go into this with lots of momentum, optimism, a sense that they finally sort of cracked the code, that they know exactly what they're trying to do under Arteta. It took a long time, 2 years now, for it to start gelling. But I think right now they seem to have it. OK,
well, let's see what Mario thinks the score is going to be in this game between Leeds and Arsenal, and in the rest of this weekend's fixtures. Remember, a reduced set of fixtures. Let's take a look at Mario's predictions.
Fun and games there with Sean Dyche, but as you've just seen, we are going to talk all things Arsenal now, and specifically Aubameyang. OK, so he wasn't in the Southampton or the West Ham squad after returning late from a trip abroad. So Arteta's very publicly chosen to strip him of his captaincy. As a manager yourself, as someone that's managed before, is it right to do that publicly? Was this the right move?
Could we just put a bit of context in there? Did he go to Gabon?
Yeah.
Right? And he had a 24-hour window.
And he was told to come back at a certain time, but he came like on a Wednesday, but he came back on the Thursday.
OK. Just to put into context, the travel 5 miles in London will take you about 24 hours.
Which happened to him, by the way. Right. Last season, remember, he was late for a game.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the first time he's been involved in this sort of thing, but...
I think there's more to it. I know you said it's not the first time, and that's the thing. By it being done public, so it suggests to me that this was his last chance. And it didn't surprise me at all, and I don't think it surprised a lot of Arsenal fans either. Because when you're at a football club and you've given someone the responsibility and haven't lived up to that responsibility on and off the pitch, and you're looking for a way out, you'll take it. When it is given to you on the plate, you'll take it. And that's what I think's happened with Arteta. And I don't disagree with it, in all honesty.
Great management.
I honestly think that it's time to move on from the likes of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Great goal scorer. But for Arsenal, the problem always been, when the going got tough, who's the one who comes to the fore? And it's not just about winning tackles, team. For Arsenal, it's about getting on the ball and being brave. When the going got tough on the pitch, I never saw him. I never saw him. You see his goals, but when it got really difficult against a big side, I don't think he's ever scored against Man City. I don't think he's ever scored against Liverpool. You know, obviously Arsenal fans have said, yeah, he won them the FA Cup, but that's not what Arsenal are about. They're about trying to get back and win the Premier League. And I think they made a mistake in signing him. And at the time, I was saying, look, I think it's a mistake because it doesn't play right in your mind when you're saying you shouldn't sign your top goal scorer who scores goals, but it's about leadership. And you're looking at Arsenal, the young players that they've got, and it's about leadership on and off the pitch. And I think he's just taken an opportunity.
See, they're very blessed. They're very blessed, Arsenal, at this present time. I think out of all the teams in the country, they've got one of the best crop of young players going. And those young players, I've been in a dressing room. I've been in the Liverpool dressing room with Jamie Redknapp and Steve McManaman and Robbie Fowler and Rob Jones and David James. And you're looking and you see in front of you Ian Rush, John Barnes, Steve McMahon, Ronnie Whelan, and the list goes on and on and on. And these Arsenal players now are at a crucial period of their development where the guys that they're looking up to, people like Aubameyang and people like Lacazette, they need a little bit of guidance because the youngsters, I think, have carried Arsenal over the last 18 months. Yeah. So, as Leroy said, this is not the first time this has happened to Aubameyang at Arsenal. It's the second time. He's done it twice before at Dortmund as well. So he's always been a player that's lived his life a little bit on the edge and he's quite unpredictable. I would worry if I was Mikel Arteta. He's got the armband, now you've stripped him of the armband. What does he actually bring as a captain? I don't think he actually brings a lot.
No.
I've been a captain. I know what the role means. It's managing a dressing room for the manager on a daily basis when the manager's up in his office and they're doing their things, they're doing the admin side of it. And your responsibility is to give a little bit of feedback to the management. Are we training too hard? Do we need to do a little bit more? On a match day, when the manager delivers his team talk and he sends you out on the pitch, you've then got that armband. And this is Arsenal. This is Arsenal armband. That's prestigious. And you go on that football pitch and you look after that young group of players, not just be a maverick and do what you want. That's not what a captaincy does. There's different types of captaincy, I totally get it. But if Mikel Arteta went down a different road and he said, right, Ben White's going to be my new captain, or Kieran Tierney, or Ramsdale, I think these youngsters now would bring more than what Aubameyang brings, and that's a worry.
It's a discussion that we've had more than once on Fan Zone, Leroy, and I've just got a list of like the relatively young players in the Arsenal team at the moment that are kind of at the core, the hub. Ramsdale, Tavares, White, Tomiyasu, Saka and Smith Rowe. We know that Arsenal aren't where they want to be ultimately, but their direction of travel, I don't think anyone can question it. It's a mixed bag over the last 5 games, 3 wins, 2 losses. Yeah. But the direction of travel is right. Wouldn't they be better placed doing something along the lines of releasing some of those funds that they're giving Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, giving all of those guys that I just mentioned a bit of a pay rise and say, you are Mr. Arsenal for the next 4 or 5 years?
I agree with everything except to giving those guys a pay rise. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Because that's what Arsenal have been. They've got everything for nothing for too many years. And Aubameyang epitomises that. He gets a massive new contract because they don't want to lose him. They won an FA Cup. It's money for nothing. And those young players have got to earn it. And I think they want to earn it. And you spoke about those young players. What I will say, all the bigger clubs around the world will take, I think, all those young players before they take Aubameyang.
I didn't put Martinelli in there.
And Martinelli in there. They would take, and that says something about his position at the club. So when you're looking at a captain of a club, and he's not an Aspilicueta, you know he's a captain because you could see the way he leads, and he's an experienced player. Aubameyang isn't that. So you're looking right. So when you play, you really have got to be the best player on the pitch. Aubameyang isn't that. So those young players are looking at him and thinking, my God, he's earning all that money. And if you give them money for nothing, that's been the problem for Arsenal. That's why they've suffered so much.
I think the good thing for Aubameyang is I think Mikel Arteta's very fair, and I think he'll offer him a way back. I do. I do.
Do you think he
that
should?
would be the right?
Why?
Yeah. Well, is that the right
he?
decision?
In the short term, I think it is, because why would you cause yourself a massive headache? Why would you cause yourself that much of a headache where you say to Aubameyang, you're stripped of the captaincy, you're not even going to feature in my matchday squad? Because if you rewind, what was it, 2-3 years ago, we had Mesut Ozil away from the football club, still getting paid.
But is there anyone in that current Arsenal squad that Jay read out the names, or anyone else that you think, actually, we've got a ready-made captain or someone that could fulfil that?
All them players that I mentioned, and Martinelli's a better centre-forward than Aubameyang at the moment. Lacazette's still playing well.
What about Ramsdale?
Yeah, no, there's loads of names that you can give the armband. I don't think the armband's a question. I think there's loads of players. You could literally say to Lacazette, you've got it till the end of the season. Granit Xhaka's been a captain. I would look at Ben White and think he's going to be in my team. He's fit. He'd be the one I would lean on for the next 2 or 3 years. But I think with Arteta, I think he might be fair, because why would you cause yourself that much of a headache? Because unless you are guaranteed you can move him on in January, you're left with this player who can either come into training or not, and you're still paying him $350 a week. I think it's a problem. I think you're better off getting him back into the squad. I don't think it's right.
No, but I don't think
I think that's what I would do.
I don't think he will, because he didn't do it with Ozil, didn't do it with other players. So I don't. And
but the Ozil one didn't play out well in the end.
But why would he do that? Well, if he's a headache, why would he want to spend all this time on this player who is a headache, by the way, not giving you? You can spend too much time on one player who's not giving you anything, and less time on all the players who are giving you everything. So what
would it sit right with you then? Because I think what you're saying, but correct me if I'm wrong, would it sit right with you if Mikel Arteta just said to Aubameyang, you're done, you're finished?
Absolutely.
But you're still paying him $350 a week.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because it's not about them. It's about where Arsenal want to go to, and you've got to put that. Yeah, it's a mistake. 350 doesn't matter. 50,000. It doesn't matter what the money is.
You can't have a guy sitting there for 2 years.
Let me ask you this. But he's getting treated differently because he's on £350,000 a week.
No. I wouldn't. I think Mikel Arteta. I'm not saying you bring him back in. You go, everything's fine, nothing's happened, away you go. I think if you're Mikel Arteta, you'd be smart, and you know you want him gone. It might be gone in January. It might take you the summer. It might be the year after. But why cause yourself that much of a headache? And unless you know you can move him on. If you can move him on, then you just say tomorrow, you're never coming back.
No disrespect, the way Arsenal are playing, who's going to accept that he comes back in the side and they get dropped out when you've got Martinelli playing?
He's going to have to work to get in the side.
So let me put it to you this way then. On the back of what happened with Mesut Ozil, and we would have hoped that Arsenal as an organisation might have learnt from that experience, that would it be wrong of Arsenal then to go, OK, find yourself a club, your agent, or we can find yourself a club.
Let's just say Barca. Let's just say Barca.
That are willing to pay you £200,000 a week.
Yeah.
We will pay the £150,000 whilst you're over there.
You're getting caught up with the money. You know, it doesn't matter. I know it sounds ridiculous.
The only reason I say that,
it doesn't matter. We'll never know. We'll never know what the deal is.
Okay.
We'll never know.
I know where JJ's coming from, though. Because you're still saving money, and you've got a problem out the door.
For Arsenal at the moment, where they are when they're spending £50,000 on Ben, the problem isn't the money. The problem is his effect on the rest of the squad. On the whole.
Doesn't that strengthen the argument then?
Well, no. So whether it's 200,000 people that they need to move him out, and you know, don't say need to. I honestly think the point is...
No, I'm not saying they need to. That's what I think will happen.
I think it's smart for him now to say it's time for him to move on and let the kids flourish.
But unless you've got a buyer, Leroy, that's what I'm saying. Like Barca haven't got the money to go, we'll take Aubameyang on 350 grand a week. They've got no money.
So what you're saying is because no one's going to buy him, he needs to stay in the squad. That is wrong. Because
why?
Because there's such a detrimental effect on the rest.
Because you're thinking about doing the right thing for Arsenal. Forget Aubameyang. You're saying we have to do the right thing.
But it's not like this guy's the worst character you've ever seen in your life. He's made a couple of bad misdemeanors. It's like
they've got to move on from that. It's not about his character, but it's time. There comes a time where someone, if not having a positive effect on your team, that they've got to move. And it's got nothing to do with he's a bad character, a good character. He seems like a really nice guy. But Arsenal have not got to stop making these decisions where they're wishy-washy and they make bad decisions. This has come to an end. And they've as you said, there's big steps been made, I think, at Arsenal with those young players, and you can't put that in jeopardy in any way.
Just before we go back to Cole, in a word from both of you, who should be the next Arsenal captain, Don?
Ben White.
I agree.
Oh, we agree.